Now for the diesel story. It started with a letter from a diesel owner, Mrs. Eugene Turley. She is very concerned about this problem and wrote to us to complain to our consumer horror file. Now listen what Mrs. Turley has to say. I believe I have something quite worth adding to your horror file, a problem which countless Oldsmobile diesel owners are experiencing, a problem costing consumers millions of dollars, I'm sure on a national basis. But rather than read the letter, we felt it would be better to go directly to Mrs. Turley and let her outline her problem concerning her Oldsmobile Cutlass.
Just bringing the car over into Thousand Oaks for its checkup, and my husband wanted to pick up a fuel filter for it, and the car stopped on Olson Road. And I managed to get it to the side of the road. I started it again. It continued to stall all the way into Thousand Oaks. I finally got it off of one of the off-ramps, and I headed back to Nice and Olds. And I drove in, and I said, I'd like to know what's going on. The people at Nice and Olds told me it would be smart to have a water separator installed. He said, well, you've evidently got water in the fuel lines. And I didn't know what he was talking about because I didn't know anything about diesel. And he told me, I forget the exact price for the filter, but installed it was $145. Plus, if the injector banks were hurt or damaged by the water, it would be about a $600 repair job. My complaint is the fact that if the car has this problem, why doesn't General Motors install the water separator on the car?
Water in the fuel? Could this be a problem with other diesel owners? We stopped in at a service station to ask.
Okay, now you have an Oldsmobile diesel. Do you have a water separator on it?
Yes, we do.
You do. Did you request to put on it, or why do you have it on there?
The car broke down in Bend, Oregon, and it cost us $535 to replace it. And that's why we have it on.
What was the reason that it broke down?
Fuel had water in it, apparently, and it just quit.
Do you have a water separator on the car?
Oh, yes.
Now, they don't install that in the factory. Did you have them install that?
I had to have install it.
Did they recommend that it be installed on the car?
No.
Then how did you know about it?
I have diesel trucks I run, and they require it to get the water out of diesel. Very simple. Just turn the valve and just drain off the excess water off the bottom, about a second, and shut it off. Very simple.
But if you didn't run trucks, you wouldn't know about that then, right?
No, I wouldn't know.
The story was now beginning to take shape. So we went to Oldsmobile dealer Greg Neeson to ask if he was aware of this problem.
It has recently come to our attention that there is some problem with fuel contamination. We have found that by the addition of a water fuel separator to the diesel engine, that this problem can be eliminated or at least corrected to where it is feasible to drive the diesel car.
And we talked to Mercedes dealer Charles Stiegler.
Well, it's our policy here at Auto Stiegler to put the water trap on. Okay, it's not the Mercedes-Benz dealer's policy. We feel we'd rather put it on now and eliminate possible problems in the future than have the customer come back and complain that the car's knocking or that the fuel filters are clogged up.
Well, it seems our concerned viewer, Mrs. Turley, is right. After speaking to several experts in the field, we have determined that it is a major problem, and if something isn't done to the cars to filter out this water in the fuel, it could end up costing diesel owners as much as $1,000 in repair bills. So what is Oldsmobile doing about it?
We are aware that there is a problem right now with water and diesel fuel. And we frequently have been asked the question about separators. And we're not really convinced that the separator is the way to go. And let me explain that. If there's a very small amount of water in the diesel fuel, the filters that we have on our cars will take care of that small amount of water. Our testing at this point in time has also indicated that the separator probably would not pass the crash barrier test.
But where does that leave our diesel owner with $595 damage to her engine?
We took it to Oldsmobile. We've had no satisfaction on that yet. We felt that they should stand the $535 for us. It wasn't our fault.
Or our concerned viewer, Mrs. Turley.
What really bothers me is if I had left the car at the dealer's they would have charged me $600 for the injector banks plus $145 for the water separator.
Now, according to General Motors spokesman Bill Ott, they are simply out of luck. Their warranty does not cover bad fuel being introduced into the car. That means if you own or plan to buy a diesel car, you too can face the possibility of major repair bills. Even though the manufacturer will not admit any problems, many new car dealers admit the problem, and they are installing extra water separators like this one. But the startling fact is that water separators like this have never been certified by the U.S. government. In order to be tested as safe, a device linked to an automobile fuel system must be able to pass a spillage crash test. This test has never been done with this type of separator. So dealers are taking it upon themselves to install this device despite a risk to their reputation and their livelihood if someday it is in fact proved to be dangerous. Now, we don't know if the water separators are safe or not. We never will know unless the diesel automakers like Volkswagen, Oldsmobile, Peugeot, and Mercedes-Benz agree to test them. And so far, they have not. Now, we see several alternatives. Have the government test water separators like this, have the manufacturers develop a more effective system, or pay the bills on major engine repairs for customers like Mrs. Turley or Mrs. Clark. Now, the reason for the excess water has been blamed on many things. Condensation, leaky storage tanks, suppliers and retailers pumping to the bottom of their fuel tanks at gas stations in times of fuel shortages. No one has been able to pinpoint the exact cause. Now, regardless of where the water is coming from, the water is there, and manufacturers should face up to this problem right now. Do you agree? All right. Now, we're going to separate for a little bit, but we'll be right back after this. This is about $150.